All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Collin with my good friend Justin Perez on the Sunshine Sports podcast. And yep, we're going to be talking about the the reviews for the Mets and Braves series. But before we get into that, there's one apology I want to make. I know we both made a joke yesterday in the Panthers video about the NFL Hall of Fame game. And all I want to say is I'm sorry. I did not know that apparently Carson Beck and Haynes King, shout out Haynes King, Texas native, we're going to make this a really great game. I don't know if you saw yesterday, but Haynes King with the go ahead rushing touchdown to end the game. Wow. Now,
No,
that's what I call electric offense. Unlike, I guess, like in the title card or in the thumbnail, with this team, there's a lot of offensive woes, except for two games that we're going to talk about with the Mets series. But some other things to keep in mind via Christina D. Nicola. Joe Mack extensions are in the works. Thank God this was during the trade deadline. And the other thing she did bring up was that Anthony Bender and Max Meyer will pitch again this year, but is yet to be determined when. Um, some other things: Sandy Alcantara does win National League Player of the Week for his two starts. I mean, well
yeah.
deserved, man. Well deserved. And the last thing, because we will mention this guy, Augustine Ramirez. He will finally work first base, but yet they're still going to let him catch. Even though he only catches a grand total of 2 innings in the first two Braves game, but other than that, yeah, something much else you could really say.
No, yeah, that yeah, by the way, that game yesterday, that Hall of Fame game, I wasn't really watching it. I only had it on because Carson Beck was starting. So I was like, let me see how he's doing. He actually balled out, so shout out QB1. He always be part of the U. So shout out Carson Beck. He was great. Hopefully he has a great career in Arizona. I know that's kind of hard to say because the Cardinals are the Cardinals, so but hopefully he survives the desert and hopefully he has a good career. But yeah, that was a great game. I wasn't really watching too much of it outside the first quarter just because, well, I was paying attention to the atrocity that we will talk about last night involving the Braves Marlins game 3, but no, yeah, it was definitely a great game. Um and no, yeah, as you were talking about with the Marlin stuff, um, you know, I've been really big on Joe Mack ever since the start of the season, ever since spring training. I was saying, hey, like he needs to be the number one catcher. He needs to be catching. Obviously, they didn't listen to me because they think they know more than I do. Uh, uh, but no, no, no. But but no, yeah, he's been great, and he definitely deserves an extension for sure. I mean, we need to lock him up while we can because remember, we are the Marlins. We are one of those teams that, for whatever reason, call it small market. I don't even know if we are a small market because we're in Miami. But for baseball teams, I guess we're a small market. But call it what it is, small market, cheap ownership, whatever it is. We know that we can't wait too long to extend him because you know obviously he's gonna leave if he has a more lucrative contract with a bigger team like the Dodgers or oh God be willing, Jesus Christ. The Dodgers, please no, they have enough. Or the Yankees or the Mets or any one of these big market teams. So it's good to just get extension talks with him now, sign him to a hefty extension. While he still has a lot to prove because obviously he's just a rookie. But yeah, keep him here, keep him long term because he's definitely gonna be one of the pieces that will lead to us making the playoffs again. Not this year, but maybe sometime down the future. Yeah, Sandy Alcantara too. I kind of feel so like we always talk about it. It's always a conversation, a topic of conversation. Is Sandy gonna get traded every year? It's a topic, and I'm always like saying no, he's not gonna get dealt. He's not gonna get traded. But after the week he had last week, NL Player of the Week, like it kind of made me like really do some. introspection. And to be honest with you, I feel bad for him because like he's been the face of this franchise since he came here. He's done nothing but pitch his ass off. Um, he's been great for us, and we've just been wasting him. And I think I had that final break that final breaking moment during the Brave series that we just finished. Like, we're wasting this guy. This guy's out here. He's given his all. He's given his heart and soul to this franchise, and we're doing absolutely nothing to back him up. And it's to me, honestly, it's infuriating because he deserves so much better. He really does.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree too, especially for a guy that has broken a lot of records here in Miami. But yeah, it's it is unfortunate that for most of his career it's kind of been like that. But honestly, I mean, with how young this team is and how the possibility of next year with a lot of these prospects, I know it doesn't really mean anything right now, but it's possible that next year, if there is a season, that this team could be interesting. I mean, this still it could be an interesting team this year, depending on how everything goes, despite this Atlanta Braves series. But um, other than that, because I know we will get to Sandy eventually in this Mets series. The first game in this Queen series was the Yuri Perez game with also the rain delay. Um, kind of
Yeah.
talk about Yuri. I do think that this was a pretty good Yuri game. I know the offense. We're gonna mention this a lot. The offense was pretty lackluster in this Mets series and Braves series. But game one, I mean, it was only two home runs by Kyle Stowers to open up the scoring and Jacob Marcy in the seventh to tie it, which this comes after a very interesting game by Graham Pauly. I still the weirdest single I have ever seen. This comes well before I mentioned, and so does Justin mentioned the weirdest strikeout we've ever seen. But yeah, Graham Pauly, he did pretty well, offensively in this game. Obviously, he does lead to the costly E6 that does lead to the Mets winning this game. Or no, this was the time they took the lead here. Yeah, they took the lead and then Marcy ties it. So
Yeah, at two, I think. Yeah.
yes,
At two, and the seventh inning.
yes, but I mean, other than that, in terms of to this point of the game, honestly, I mean, these types of uneventful, low scoring games that ideally you kind of do want to be in for the Marlins. You don't want to always be in these high scoring games, but man, dude, it says a lot when the four best hitters that night, to my knowledge, were, and I had it written down, were Stowers, Pauly, Hicks, and Jacob Marcy. And we'll get to the struggle of Michael Pearson later on, but just kind of want to hear your initial thoughts about this first game before we wrap it up.
No, yeah. As you mentioned, solid start for Yuri in the first game against the Mets last week. Um or whenever. I always lose track of time, so excuse me. No, but um no, but yeah, it was a solid start. Yuri, as usual, didn't have his full control. That's like the constant thing with Yuri is that he's a really good pitcher, and he's very talented, and we know he's great. We know he's good, especially for his age and for how young he is. Like I said, only 4 years. I mentioned that in a video too. He's only 4 years into his career. But yeah, just every start you kind of expect him to sort of not have his command, or you sort of expect him to not have his control for some stretches, especially when it comes to certain pitches. There's usually like a pitch that he struggles with, when he's out there. The last start that he had against the Braves, which we will talk about it. That pitch that he had trouble with was his sinker. So it's like every other game that he plays in, that he pitches in, he's usually having trouble commanding like one specific pitch. But even with that, he still did a solid job. He did not allow an extra base hit. Um, and despite being put to work, especially in that sixth inning, I wrote it down on the notes here from that game. 28 pitches in that sixth inning, so he was put to work and he was able to get through it. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, uh, which honestly continued a really good stretch for him. He's been really good. He's put up really solid numbers ever since he's come back from the IL when he had that weird injury in Toronto. I still don't understand what happened. But yeah, but at the end of the day, this game, this 4-2 loss, the only runs that we got were the solo shots from Stowers in the fourth and Marcy in the seventh. 9 total strikeouts. We had some bad luck in that game for sure, which definitely has been one of our biggest problems offensively. Is that sometimes we've had some bad luck and we've played teams that have generally put on defensive master classes against us, but at the same time, only 2 runs is not gonna do anything for you. And I even wrote it here. I mean, Otto Lopez, he's been really, really, really cold. I don't know. He's like he's fallen off the face of the face of the earth. This game, he went 0 for 4. Joe Mack went 0 for 3. Griffin Conine went 0 for 4. Burt went 0 for 3. So just a lot of offers, and you're gonna be hearing that a lot in this episode. Uh, but yeah, Graham Pauly, uh, the ultimate like weird, what I call yin and yang moment, because the fifth inning, he had an amazing catch in foul territory where he had to like run for the ball. I'm sure you remember this. Like it was like a down. Of
Yes.
course, he was the third base, so it was left left field foul territory. He had to run to get he had to run to make an enormous catch while he basically got tackled by the tarp that the Mets leave there. I don't even why leave the tarp there on. I don't know. It's a whole nother conversation for another day. But yeah, so he makes a great catch, gets tackled by that tarp, hangs on to it, great catch. But then the next inning, he has that embarrassing E5 where the ball like just goes through him. He tries to pick the ball off the ground. Somehow he can't get the ball. He can't corral it, and Luis Robert, a simple chopper that could have resulted in a quick out, a ground out, whatever, ends up putting Luis Robert safe at first in that inning. But yeah, just weird game all around. And of course, we lost it because bullpen. This time Michael Peterson of all people, who's been one of our most reliable bullpen arms, comes in the game and he gives up. I think I wrote it down. Yeah, 3 straight 2-out hits after recording the first 2 outs rather easily to start that eighth inning. So yeah, that was definitely a frustrating loss. But again, it all boils down to two things: lack of offense and your bullpen guy, whoever it may be, not getting the job done.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I will correct myself if I did say E6, E5, but
Yeah, yeah, it's
Blake
E5.
Walker, Blake Walker does also make an appearance in the series before. Pearson sort of struggles in his first game back. He Walker goes 3 up and 3 down. Yeah, my only real issue with the Michael Pearson thing, I mean, look, it's a classic case of yes, he is the right guy for that situation, but he just could not. He has to produce there. My only real gripe for anything is that Clayton or somebody, Damon Moscow, should have said something once he had to face his fifth batter. But other than that, I'm not really. It's really on Big Mike, which we'll get to Big Mike later on in the finale game. But yeah, it was just not his best stuff coming back from injury. But you know what, is what it is. I'm not gonna really complain about it. All right, so the second Mets game, which funny enough was on Spider-Man Day, which well, this is going to
Yeah,
be a little bit of a side tangent for this game and the next game. But as you see in the thumbnail, which you could also say it's a pretty nice theme for how bad the Marlins offense has been when they've been practically in quicksand for the majority of this road trip. Shown by the Sandman as Billy the Marlin. But So yeah, so there was no Freddie Peralta in this game. Of course, Freddie Peralta was traded to the Tampa Bay Rays, and Senga makes a start. Um, yeah, early on in this game, they did very much struggle against Senga, which I'm not really too surprised at. But
It's still inexcusable.
oh yeah, it
It's
is.
still because Senga's had an ERA over 8. So it's like there's no reason for why you should be struggling against a pitcher who has an ERA that's as bad as me. Because if I was out there, I it would be just as bad as that. So there's no reason why you should be struggling to a Joe Schmo like Kodai Senga. But of course we're the Marlins, so yeah.
But other than that, the defense does bail out Jansen Junk in the fourth inning, and once kind of that fourth inning started is kind of where the offense really started to take off a bit. So it starts off with hey, another guy that I'm gonna keep mentioning here because he did a lot of good in this road trip. Jacob Marcy cashing in Griffin Conine to break the ice, and then Mac cashes in both Marcy and Heriberto Hernandez to make it 3-0. Xavier Edwards with the bloop single to drive in Mac to make it 4-0. And I guess another really bad theme of this team that we also will mention throughout this entire series with this one and the Braves is bad base running. Xavier Edwards, I believe he gets picked off at I want to say second to end the fifth inning, but overall, I mean, yeah, it's these like little small bursts of offense that kind of happens randomly at times, and it certainly did randomly happen throughout these two games. But it was a nice, taste of fresh air a little bit to see the offenses come together and just work for once.
Yeah, in that game, in game 2, first of all, that was our first win of the season in City Field. Because if you all have forgotten, which I'm not surprised, because it was forgettable, but we obviously ended May getting swept by the Mets in City Field, which we all thought was the low point of the season. Of course, that's different now, but um, so that was our first win, and just like in game 1, it's Kyle Stowers and Jacob Marcy that lead the charge offensively. We put up that 4 spot in the fifth inning, and I think looking back at that game, I think after that 4 spot, the game kind of felt not out of reach, but it kind of felt like we were like 95, 96%, away from winning, I guess. Just because Jansen Junk, he was doing pretty good. He did get into some trouble, but as you mentioned, got out of it. Uh, he was able to give us three. I mean, oh my God, he was able to give us 5 solid innings. Only gave up 3 hits, 4 strikeouts. So he did his job. Which at this point, getting 5 quality innings of shutout baseball, 1 run baseball from Jansen Junk, that's certainly a win in anybody's book if you're a Marlins fan. So that was something to be good, to be grateful for. And you know, yeah, Xavier Edwards, he did have that calamitous base running error, and I don't know if we've talked about that enough, but the base running has been too over aggressive, and that will come up again, of course. But yeah, it's almost like Edwards, Lopez, Sonoha, and Morrissey. Those are like the 4 guys, at least in my eyes, that are constantly getting caught stealing. Like they're constantly getting caught stealing bases. And I kind of feel like that's more of it's not necessarily a capability thing. It's more of a mental thing. I feel like we're not playing fundamentally sound baseball, and when you make several base running mistakes over the course of a season, the way that we have been doing, it certainly raises some questions and concern. And that hasn't gotten away, unfortunately. But still, other than that, just a good, solid win. And fortunately for us, that was the start of a little 3 game win streak, as we'll talk about against the Mets here. But yeah, that was just a great win. Kind of disappointed that they did not get to Senga like right away because, as I just mentioned, a bad ERA. He's been terrible this season, just like the entire Mets have been. So you're kind of thinking, okay, we do have a lot of quality, capable bats. We should be able to get to this guy, and we did not until the fourth inning. So, but a win is a win. You take it any way you can, and we were able to play solid defense, solid pitching in that one to really put that one away. I think that was like the big aspect that helped us win that game was the pitching.
No, absolutely, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, another thing, another common theme for this team a lot lately has been a lot of errors. I know in this game, Kyle Stowers does give the Mets momentum a bit, but it was only one run. But Kyle Stowers does redeem himself for the E3 with a solo shot that was pretty good. But I guess the real stars of the show here were the bullpen in this game, because Calvin Fauché, and even now I still can't believe I get to say this in the year 2026. Calvin Fauché bails out Cade Gibson,
Yeah.
and this was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life from him. Um, yeah, well, yeah, Javi with really bad base running that cost him a double. Yeah, so Calvin Fauché, this is probably one of his best games, despite allowing the solo home run to Francisco Lindor. That was just a really just Lindor being the better pitcher there, and Fauché just he did all he could, honestly. But yes, Calvin with four. Yes, your eyes don't deceive you. Straight strikeouts before facing Francisco Lindor, but that was honestly just a oh my god, I can't believe of all people him moment. And then another kind of one of those oh my god, I can't believe moment is um, a 1-2-3 outing by Pete Fairbanks, who quietly has somewhat turned around his season a little bit, just by that much. And Tyler Zuber holding his own a little bit. But yeah, that was a real surprise for me in the second Mets game was the bullpen outside of like Kate Gibson, honestly.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Pete Fairbanks, we got to give him credit, as he does deserve all the criticism that he's received because, again, you're getting paid $13 million to go get 3 outs a night, and he hasn't been able to do that. But uh, recently he's been doing a good job. But I think he's had. I mean, I kind of forgot because obviously it feels like forever since we won a game, but um, I think he had like four straight saves, or I think he has like four consecutive saves and five consecutive scoreless outings. So, um, Pete Fairbanks coming through with that save there. Happy about that. You wish he could have been doing that earlier in the season because we might be in a better position, but it is what it is. Calvin Fauché definitely a surprise because I mean Calvin Fauché hasn't really been awful this season, but he's had some breakdowns in the worst possible moments. So that's obviously kind of dwindled some confidence. I kind of feel like from everybody's perspective involving him, but he's been getting the job done lately as well. He hasn't really had a terrible outing in recent days. Um, yeah, and he comes in four strikeouts. I mean, four strikeouts in an inning and a third. That's crazy. So yeah, so that was just great for him. Also, Zuber came in. He did a good job pitching his inning and third. So yeah, so the bullpen definitely in this series had, I think, its best moment, as we'll get into, especially in Game 4, because Game 4 that was just wild. As we'll talk about, Michael
Oh yeah,
Peterson crazy, but we'll get to that. But yeah, just great job by the bullpen in that one.
absolutely. Now we're on to game three of this Met series. This was the Tyler Phillips start that, yeah, again, I'll get to him a little bit. Kind of a weird theme with Tyler Phillips lately is that he does allow, he's in each one of his last outings, I want to say since the Astros game, he has allowed 2 runs in every one of his starts, but after that, he really settles in and looks like himself. Um, and yeah, um, other than that, yes, Hicks does open up the scoring early with driving in Otto Lopez. Um, yes, Javier Sanoja hits a 2-run home run to extend the lead from there. kind of one of the more, I guess, enjoyable, little segments I did. I was watching this is that Joe Mack apparently is a big Marvel guy. Even though I'll just mention this, he was talking to Kyle Seeloff about because apparently Kyle Seeloff doesn't know who Spider Man is. Apparently, weird.
Really? Wait, really? Are
Yes,
you serious?
yes,
No way,
yes.
dude.
This was
How
an
do you not
actual
know who Spider
conversation.
Man is? Kyle
This was.
Seeloff, Kyle Seeloff, have you spent your entire childhood and life just devoted to baseball? Have you ever seen anything else in your life? Have you watched a movie or a TV show? Like, because I'm sure you remember. That's crazy. I'm sure you remember. It was like a home game, and the Marlins they were doing a Naruto night or something like that,
Yes.
and he can't even pronounce Naruto right. He said it like very weird. He said it like Naruto, and I'm like, you've never heard of this before? This thing has been out. This has been a cult following thing since like the mid 2000s, and you don't know how to pronounce his name. Like, I don't. That's crazy, bro. Yo, and that's crazy because I myself, I'm not a superhero guy. Like, I'm more anime oriented. Like, I'm not big on DC or Marvel. But come on, man, you don't know who Spider Man is? That's crazy. Like you don't gotta know the story, but you gotta at least know the character. I've seen it everywhere. It's insane. Kyle Seeloff, you gotta do better, man. Jeez.
Well, yes, that was one of the more enjoyable aspects of that game. Was, in my opinion, of that match series was the little interaction between Joe Mack and Kyle Seeloff as Joe Mack is explaining to him about Spider-Man and the different variations, especially with Miles Morales. I'll give this to Joe Mack, even though he does seem like the guy that doesn't only watches the movies, understandably so. Um, yeah, you know more than the average Joe. I'll give you that, Joe Mack. Um, Other than that, this was, I guess, another cool aspect of this game. Man, Esteury Ruiz with an amazing. I still can't believe how he was able to be safe, but
Oh
man, he
yeah,
steals third with an amazing swim move.
swim move.
Honestly, that was chef's kiss
That was
right there,
awesome.
man. I
Yeah.
was amazed by that. And Otto Lopez does drive him in to make it to that point. I want to say, yeah, it was 4-0 at that point. The Mets would cut the lead to one. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it was 3-0, and then they cut it to one with the Taylor home run, and then Ruiz makes it 4-2. Yes, I did get it right. All right. Other than that, the Marlins, I want to say against a lefty pitcher like Thornton, they did pretty well today. I mean, they got after him. They did surprisingly well. So, yeah, so those are kind of like my thoughts throughout this first part of this third game. Just want to hear some of yours before we wrap it up here.
No, yeah, absolutely. You just mentioned it. We faced off against a lefty, Zach Thornton, and Zach Thornton's a young pitcher. I think he's in his rookie year. I could be wrong, but he's young. But still, it doesn't matter who it is. Like facing a lefty pitcher, facing lefties has been like a nightmare for us this season. So the fact that we were able to, have some success in a game against a left-handed pitcher definitely means something. So that's great. Um, the offense definitely came alive, which this is, I think, the last time that they had a explosion like this. 10 hits. You mentioned the Javier Sanoja two-run homer. That was only his second homer of the year. Yeah, he's
Wow.
definitely not a power hitter. He's definitely not. So don't expect too many of those. Just enjoy as many Javi bombs as we get because he's not going to be doing that a lot. But yeah, two-run homer in the second, then Conine with a solo shot in the fifth. Um, Offense was great, like I said. Both of them had 2 hits. Liam Hicks had a good night, a good day, 2 for 3 in that game. Esteury Ruiz, you also gotta talk about how he went 2 for 3 as well. Yeah, the swim move was great, but he also had a productive game at the plate. And as you mentioned, the swim move, that was when he stole third base, and that steal at third was the ninth time that he stole the third base bag. And I actually wrote this down. He stole third 9 times in 30 less games than Jazz Chisholm did. So um that's kind of interesting because Jazz Chisholm is like considered to be like, you know, I'm guessing one of like the best base stealers, if not the best base stealer in baseball. Mainly, I guess, because of his speed. So the fact that you could match him with that is interesting. Um, Especially in 30 less games. I mean, it's not easy to steal. Listen, I'm no baseball aficionado like compared to other sports, but I know for a fact that stealing third base is probably one of the toughest things to do in the sport because you're literally right in the catcher's view. I mean, you're always in the catcher's view, but like you're right there. Um, so it was cool to see him do that little swim move, to evade and get to the third base bag. Tyler Phillips, like like you said, a solid outing for him. 5 innings. Did give up the 2-run bomb to Tyrone Taylor in the second inning, which the 2-run bomb certainly has been like a weird, I guess, common occurrence with Tyler Phillips. That's sort of been like his Achilles heel, but not surprised at all. He was able to lock in, compose himself, stay the course, and get the job done, which is what you expect from him because he's probably like my second favorite player on the team behind Sonoha, and the reason why is because of his maturity and his overall attitude. Like it's almost like if he were to get punched in the face, like it would not phase him at all. Like it just wouldn't. He'll just get back up and he'll throw it right back. So he has that fighter mindset, which I adore. I always want my players like I always want players on my teams to have that gritty, feisty fighter mindset because in my opinion that's what breeds winning. Um and he definitely has that. So I think it's great for him. He gave up the 6 hits, but like I said, you can give up as many hits as you do. As long as you get the outs, that's all that matters. And he was able to do that for us. Did not allow a walk, by the way, which is very interesting. That was the first time he did not allow a pass since June 28th. Um, 65 pitches. Looking back again, Clayton again, question decision. He's dealing. Why take him out after only 65 pitches? I get it. He's more of a bullpen arm, but again, you're in a spot where you got to win some games. He gets taken out after the 5 innings. I wish Phillips got the 6, but luckily it didn't cost us. As the bullpen definitely came through. I guess I'll start talking about that. John King came in the 6th, and he did a great job with that 1 inning. And Blake Bacher, of all people, actually, he got the save, but it wasn't just a save. It was a 3-inning save. Um, yeah, so that was pretty sweet to see, because obviously before that he was kind of getting rocked a little bit. He was giving up some contact, giving up some runs. So it was kind of it was definitely, I'm sure, an uplifting moment for him to get a 3-inning save, because that's definitely not easy to do. But yeah, just a great job by both King and Bacher to come in and shut the Mets bats down the rest of the way.
Oh, absolutely. That was something I was going to mention too. The old school save for Lake Blocker with 9 outs, which yeah, I was genuinely kind of surprised by that because you see Lake Blocker go out for 9, you're like, all right, he's probably gonna face one more or two more batters. But no, he goes all the way, and hey, hats off to Lake, the now former Miami Marlin.
Yeah.
But all right, so game four. So game four of this Mets series. Owen Casey does make his return to this lineup. Casey, to this point, since being back from the IL, just looking a little bit ahead. Um, he's still trying to work his way back in. I'm not gonna really harp on it too much. Yeah, the strikeouts are there, but for a guy like Casey, that the power's there and he can definitely hit the ball in all directions of the field. Yeah, it's okay. But so yeah, Jacob Marcy was scratched for this game for low back spasms, but he does make an appearance in the ninth. So Reese checks in. Um, yes, this was another really good Sandy start here. The defense really helps him out to get out of a really big jam in the third. Joe Mack, man, dude, I love this guy very much. Big proponent of the Joe Mack fan club. He hits a home run to right center to open up the scoring, which really was kind of the only run that was scored there until the top of the ninth. But other than that, yeah. So a good outing by Sandy, even though he does leave himself a little bit there of a jam. But man, dude, the highlight. This is probably one of the biggest highlights of the year, in my opinion, from the pitching wise. We could talk about, Sandy's, Maddox, but this right here might be the highlight of the year for this entire bullpen. Big Mike Peterson, man, dude, this guy, he bails out Sandy. I want to say, he strikes out the first guy or the first two guys. I want to say, and he gets a ground out to first to close out the seventh inning. Shout out Big Mike, man. I know that first Mets game, it was pretty bad until after those first two outs. But dude, talk about the biggest way to redeem yourself in the biggest moment of the game right there. That sucked the life out of City Field right there.
Yeah, yeah. I do agree. I think that right there is the that's definitely, I think, the defining moment of the season for the bullpen. Um, you know, especially for Peterson. I mean, coming into a game and loading the bases, because people, it's easy to forget. Sandy, as you mentioned, just a tremendous start, amazing 6 innings, five strikeouts, not giving up anything, 4 hits. I mean, he gave up nothing, but starting in that seventh inning, obviously, you could tell he was out of gas. Again, I don't know. I mean, Sandy. So I guess I understand why Clayton kept him in the game, and I probably would have done the same thing too. But you know, after allowing the first guy on base, that's when you take him out. In my opinion, I don't know why he kept him in the game after giving up the first base runner, because what happened was Luis Robert Jr. So in the seventh, Luis Robert Jr. He hit a single, I believe, to right field, and then um Jared Young hit a double that sent Robert from first to second, which obviously knocked Sandy out of the game. So Peterson comes in, he already has runners at the corners, and then his first batter is Marcus Simeon. He walks Marcus Simeon. So you're thinking, oh, crap, we this is it. We're only up 2-0, because again, the offense nowhere to be found. So we're only up 2-0, and you're like,
That
man,
was 1-0 still.
oh, that's right, that's right. It was 1-0. That's right. Because I think we added an insurance run in the ninth, right? Like,
Yes,
was it a
X
Xavier Edwards
drives in
insurance
auto
run? That's
after
right.
the
Yeah,
leadoff double, I believe.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So yeah, so we're only up 1-0. No offense. Sandy gets into trouble, but he gives you a great chance to win. And then you walk Marcus Simeon. You walk Simeon and you load the bases. So I'm thinking, great. Here we go. We're gonna a must-win series, and we're gonna split against the worst team in our division. Like, it's just inexcusable. But after that, I don't know what happened. I don't know if Peterson locked in. I don't know if I don't know what happened, man. I don't know, but he looked like a man from a different planet after that, because he got the first two strikeouts. He struck out Jorge Polanco, struck out Francisco Alvarez, and then he gets the 3-4 ground out to end the inning. So that, obviously AJ Ewing was batting on that ground out. So just impeccable stuff. I don't think we've gotten out of a bases loaded jam all year. Not that I'm surprised, because it's pretty hard to do. So the fact that Peterson did that, after that happened, I was like, this game's over. Like, there's that was the best chance the Mets had to get the lead, and tie the series up. And after Mikey got through it, it was over. And then Pete Fairbanks comes in, perfect ninth inning, um, which ended up being his fourth straight save. Luckily, I wrote that down. So great stuff by the bullpen. Great composure. And yeah, the only offense, as you mentioned, Joe Mack homer, which was his what? I forgot, what, his 10th homer or
Now
11th homer.
it
It was
might
way
be
past that.
11. It could be 12, but
Probably.
it
It's
don't matter,
somewhere.
man. This
Yeah,
guy's great.
yeah. Facts. He's great. And yeah, I think of the 12 homers he has, he's hit five of them since July began. So no, yeah, great stuff. And then of course X adds the insurance run in the ninth inning. Although he had a putrid series, 3 for 17, it's just awful. Um, and yeah, five Marlins failed to get a hit in that game. Owen Casey, like you said, first game back, and he's been struggling since then. And he kicked that struggle off with an 0 for 3 performance in this game that we're talking about now. But yeah, and then also Otto Lopez. So X finished 3 for 17, and Otto Lopez finished 2 for 17, and they really haven't been better since then. So that's definitely something we'll talk about as we enter the Brave series. But yeah, just a great pitching a dominant pitching effort by for sure in that game to win the series. So great stuff.
No, absolutely agree. Even though I don't think this was Fairbanks' best closing game because his command was not really the best, but doesn't really come back to bite him at all. As the
Yeah.
game just right, it is ended it right as I was gonna watch Spider Man, Brand New Day. Which yes, this will be the last time I bring up Spider Man. I know I brought it up like a million times today, but that's okay. But all right, now we're gonna talk about it. It's okay, people. We're gonna try to ease the pain as much as we can. But yes, the Marlins, they make that trip all the way to Truist Park in Atlanta. I know, but there were some good things that did come out of this. It was very small and few in between. But yes, this was the first in this first Atlanta Braves game post trade deadline. And I'll just get this out of the way because I know some people brought it up. Because yes, it was really bad timing that Liam Hicks hits a grand slam in Coors Field, and while that's great and all, there was absolutely no way Liam Hicks was going to help this team at all in this series in Atlanta. But the one good thing that did go right for this Marlins team in terms of health is that Josh Acknes does come back in this series, which is great to see another great bullpen arm like him make his return back. Yes, another theme for this series too is that starting pitching for the most part does its job very well, but the offense is lifeless, which we'll get into as we talk about this first game. But this was the Ryan Gusto game. He only allows the one home run to Ozzy Albies. Overall, with Ryan Gusto, I mean, yeah, this was the game he went 6 innings, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of the rare oddities of Ryan Gusto to where, yeah, you get 6 innings out of him with 5 strikeouts, with only 5 hits. That's a pretty good start out of him. So hats off to Ryan Gusto. But yeah, the offense was, I mean, again, lifeless until that ninth inning. But another thing that's yet again plagued this team a lot is errors. Otto Lopez with an E6 that should have really just been an easy put out, but this is another kind of issue that Otto has had throughout this year. But it results in an Austin Riley 2-run bomb that, in my opinion, really put away this game, honestly. But other than that, Augustine Ramirez does make his first plate appearance as a Miami Marlin since the Philadelphia Philly series all the way back in May. Yeah, I mean, look, it is very clear to me, and I'll just bring this up now because try and make this as short as possible with the Braves. Yes, he does catch in this series. Yes, the pass balls are still there with him. He still struggles mightily. It doesn't really look like he really has changed or try to really prove why he should be in the majors other than just being a DH, honestly. But I guess lastly, uh, Vodnik does make an appearance, but it is he struggles a bit, but he part of it was with the pass ball, which I'm not gonna really give him too much flack for that. I think he does okay. He does struggle, but I would just like to see him get a little bit more reps here as we move on to the Los Angeles Angels series here. But those are kind of like my general thoughts of that first game. So I'll let you take it away from here.
No, yeah. Yeah, as you, I'm not gonna talk much about the pitching here because there's not much to talk about. Great stuff by Ryan Gusto, 6 innings. Definitely did not expect that from him. I mean, he's usually like good for. I mean, usually when Gusto's come into games, he's been like an opener, like 3 innings, four, and then another guy comes in. But 6 innings is just great, and he gave us exactly. Ryan Gusto gave us exactly what we needed, and this offense did not show up. They didn't even want to get off the bus.
until the ninth.
Too late by then. Um, but yeah, Ryan Gusto, good stuff. Only gave up the solo shot to Ozzy Albies in the second inning. Um, John King, his last two outings in Atlanta now. Obviously, both his last two outings have been in Atlanta. Horrible. Um, he gives up the two-run homer to Austin Riley in the seventh, which kind of, I guess, it did. It salted the game away. It felt over after that. Um, and then yeah, Victor Vodnik, his Marlins debut, like you said, wasn't amazing as I expected. He's more of a ground ball guy. Doesn't really strike out a lot of guys. He gives up some contact. I mean, he pitched in Colorado, so a lot of these issues that he has is because he played in Colorado. But I have confidence that the pitching staff, the pitching, the coaching staff for the pitching, I have great confidence that they'll be able to get him to a point where he could be like a great eighth inning setup man for whoever our closer is gonna be. Pete Fairbanks now. Who knows next year, or if there is a season next year or 2028. Regardless of what happens, I'm confident that the Marlins brass will make Vodnik into a perfect eighth inning setup man for our closing pitcher. Now, with that being said, uh, yeah, the offense is just brutal. This series that we just witnessed is the worst. You can make an argument this is the worst series that this team has put together offensively. And every game, nobody showing up, nobody doing anything. Everybody getting into quick 0-2 holes, which I mentioned it. Pedro Guerrero has to get fired. Because if this is the case, like if you continue to see guys like Casey, Stowers, Burt, Lopez, Edwards, like these are your best hitters, and if you constantly see them swinging early in the count, not working counts, getting into quick 0-2 holes, then that's not them. That's the coaching, because the coaching tells them what to do. And if you're telling these guys to be super aggressive early in the count, and if it's not working, and if you keep sticking to it, then that's enough. Then, in my opinion, that's a fireable offense. So, definitely, in my opinion, a change has to get made with the coaching, hitting wise. Uh, Burt and Otto, believe it or not, were the only Marlins with multi-hit games in this specific outing in this game. Uh, Everyone else just a no-show. Conine 0 for 3, Casey 0 for 4. I also wrote Jimenez 1 for 4. I know you don't really got to expect anything from Jimenez, but it goes to show you that the brass. I don't know why they keep going with this guy in the first place. It's like trying to stick a square peg into a round hole. Like it just doesn't work. I don't know why they keep giving Leo Jimenez chances, but hey, I'm not the manager, right? I don't know anything about baseball, so it is what it is. But yeah, but Augustine Ramirez, I don't even know what to say. Like Augustine, like he's been in the minors for months, and people are already doubting you. You had a disgusting start to the season. Nobody noticing you. Everybody forgetting about you. You come up after months of being stuck in AAA down in Jacksonville. Everybody's excited for you to return, and you come in and, as you mentioned, no change. Like 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a flyout, and then of course he has that terrible pass ball, which again, it just I don't know how you can be down in the minors for so long, come back up, get a second chance, and still look the same. Like, have you been practicing, Augustine? Have you been practicing how to catch? Have you been like what have you been doing? Like, have you been lollygagging around in Jacksonville, not giving a crap and playing games or something? Like what's going on? Like there's no reason why that should ever happen consistently. You're a catcher, do your job. Do your job to the best of your ability and do it well. And he just hasn't done that. Gus, I'm telling you, he's gonna be gone. If he keeps this up, he's gonna be gone by next year because everybody's calling him the Gus Bus. Yeah, he. Bitch. By the way, stop stealing from Gustav Forsling. By the way, whoever decides to get a new nickname, please just get a new nickname. Be creative. But everybody's saying, "Oh, the Gus busing." Yet he's the one gonna be taking a bus down to Jacksonville for the rest of his career because he's just awful. He's awful. He's just terrible. Probably one of the worst baseball players I've ever seen in my life. I know he had that great rookie season, but look, guys have had great 1 years and they've fallen off the cliff the next year and they never come back. So I'm hoping Augustine Ramirez comes back. I'm hoping that there's still life. I'm hoping that there's still a heartbeat in his soul. But it's looking really, really bad right now. It's awful. It's awful. It's bad.
Yeah, well, I guess the last thing we should talk about, despite the ninth inning heroics by Leo Jimenez, was the most unnecessary
Oh
double
my god.
steal that I ever seen in my life that ends the game. I believe Sonoha was up to bat too, which
Yeah.
I'm just gonna just I was gonna just kind of just say this and just move on to game two. Is that, yeah? I don't know why. While I understand the thought concept of doing a double steal,
No reason
but it
for it.
was the worst opportunity to really do that in,
There's no
and
reason
that's all
for it.
I'm gonna leave it at because there's another boneheaded play in a particular game that I made somewhat of a rant about in last night's little short. But in game two, this was the Yuri Perez game that I will just say that for the most part, because Yuri has historically struggled at Truitt's Park, that this was by far his best start at Truitt's Park. Yes, he does allow the home run to Austin Riley to open up the scoring, and then Baldwin adds two more, and Dubine makes it 4-0. But after that, I mean, he does fine. He does get nine strikeouts, but I mean, yeah, this was just kind of one of those things. Like, look, is Yuri? He kind of really did all he could. The pitching really did all it could too, since it kind of locked it down from there. But yeah, another lifeless game, but with the most funniest strikeout that you've ever probably seen. Definitely the weirdest one with Calvin Fauché with the second batter that he faces. That, yeah, I forget who he was facing against, but he gets a strikeout. The ball goes off the glove into Joe Mack's catcher's mask, and he gets rewarded a strikeout. Sure, this is without even mentioning the other thing that happened in this game, which I'm glad you brought up because I sort of forgot about this with Joe Mack. Um, I forget who was it at bat that he threw the ball and it doinked off his head, which it,
It was Dubon. It was
of
Mauricio
course it's
Dubon.
Dubon. It's always like the same like five people from the Braves that get involved in any type of thing with the Marlins. But yes, that does happen too, which I just thought it was just such a weird oddity. But it's whatever. But other than that, yeah, because this is another just short kind of recap with this. Josh Eknes does make his triumphant return with Augustine Ramirez catching, and he does fine. He only allows the one hit. Jacob Marcy produces I believe the team's lone run in that game
Yeah.
because Casey, gets on base. Marcy doubles, and Joe Mack with the all-time classic RBI ground out. Yeah, I mean it's a part of another this issue, man. Just kind of like common theme throughout this series in particular that whenever runners got on base for the Marlins against the Braves, it's like the offense just died right there on the spot.
Yeah. You see everybody at home. You see these three fingers I'm holding up right here. This is the amount of hits that we got in that game. Three, all in the fifth inning, by the way. All in the fifth inning, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, this offense is just terrible. Other than Marcy, no one else was doing anything. Only seven different Marlins went hitless in game two against the Braves. As you mentioned, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, leaving guys on base. But it doesn't even seem like that's the thing. Like it's not like we're even getting on base a lot. That's the thing. Like forget about taking advantage of guys when they're on base. We're not even getting guys on base most of the time. It's just a lot of a whole bunch of nothing happening, and yeah, Yuri Perez, he does that his best start in Atlanta. Again, I know he gave up the 7 hits, but 9 strikeouts is nothing to sneeze at. And coming into that game, Yuri, career wise, which again isn't a large sample size, has he tossed a 17.47 ERA in Atlanta before this game. So the fact that he was able to do that is great. It's a good step forward for him. He definitely has to get used to pitching in Atlanta. I mean, they're division rivals, so get used to it. Um, his shortest start, I think that's something that should be mentioned. I wrote it down here. His shortest start since he returned from the IL, he only went 5 innings. So because of course he had to work, like he of course I mentioned it, and when it came to the Mets game, he had trouble with his sinker this time. Didn't have his control like usual, but of course gets through it. Um, it's interesting to know he did give up all the 4 runs that the Braves scored, but he still gave us a chance to win this game. Just the offense just decided to not show up. Uh, but yeah, interesting to know the 4 earned runs he gave up is already nearing the total amount of earned runs he gave up in the month of July. He gave up only 6 earned runs in July, so it's kind of interesting that he gave up nearly almost all of that in one game. But um, yeah, the bullpen is solid. One thing that I wrote, maybe it was just me, it kind of seemed like there was like huge, wide defensive gaps. Like the defense kind of felt like too spaced out. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know how we line. I'm not an expert on lineups, like different alignments and stuff like that, but it just kind of felt like the gaps in the infield were just like so massive because there were several ground balls that is like, dude, you could make that play if you were a little bit closer to the ball. But regardless, that's how it went. Yeah, Joe Mack with the Hanna Barbera night with the strikeout in the catcher's mask, and then that hilarious. I'm still laughing over that hilarious laser to third base that bounced off of Dubon's helmet and went not it didn't just go into foul territory. That went like far into foul territory. That was way down the left field line. So that was almost like a hit. It might as well be a hit. Uh no, yeah, that was funny. That was great. And that was the only enjoyment that I honestly got from this entire series because once again, the offense, I just find it amazing how Jacob Marcy, he's probably been and I mentioned this to you before we started this. He's probably been our worst regular this entire season. Definitely one of the more disappointing players on this team. And yet it is
Offensively speaking.
yeah. Offensively, yes. And then it is him that ends up being the most productive at the batter's box while X is quiet, Otto's quiet, Mac is quiet, Stowers is not doing anything. Like Burt is non-existent. Sonoha, I mean, like again, this is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type stuff. Like this team is so confusing and so incoherent. Like earlier in the season, it was the bullpen. That was the biggest issue. The offense was clicking. Everything was fine, at least for the most part. Now, it's the offense that's not showing up. The bullpen is revived somehow, and the starting pitching is what it's been this whole season. So we're just not playing cohesive baseball. Like this team is like when one unit's playing well, the other stinks. It's so weird and confusing, and it's doomed us the whole season. This which goes to show you again of how young this team is. I mean, this what we're watching is a young team. We're one of the youngest teams in baseball, and they certainly play like it at times. And this is an example of that.
Absolutely. Not only just young team in general, but just young coaching staff as well. It's shown a lot through a lot of last year, even with the success part of the success of last year and the part of success of this year as well. All right, yeah, talk about last night. So about last night, huh? Look, we'll start with honestly like the two bright spots of this game, in my opinion. I know that they scored 3 runs and then 1 run in the ninth and two. I don't care. Okay, this game was a
Yeah.
complete wash. You know it's a wash when Javier Sanoa is pitching, which shout out to him. He does make it a pitching appearance in this game. One of the rare times that he does. But the two good plays in this entire game was Javier Sanoa gunning down Dubai at second, which was
Yeah.
kind of weird that he did anyway. That Dubai was going second, and then Heriberto Hernandez guns down Smith at second base to get the final out at the second inning, which was another weird oddity of that second inning that the Braves did that twice. But it's hard for me to really talk about this when I don't really have a lot to say initially. But this was probably the dumbest, and I do mean in
Oh my
all
god.
caps, all five varies, as Jaws from Flying Fluffy Hockey might say, the dumbest 2 run home run that I've ever seen in my life. Just ever. Now I understand why Ruiz was running to left center. He has the speed to make that play. But Heriberto Hernandez clearly calls him off, but he doesn't do it loudly enough at all.
Yeah, it's just brutal. It's brutal.
And the ball gets over both of them, and the cherry on top of it all, it's Ronald freaking Acuna Jr. that gets credit with the home run, and he thought that it was a ground rule double.
Yeah, yeah, you could see his reaction. His reaction, he was confused. He had no idea what the hell was going on. That and keep in mind, I think that was coming off of a rain delay. Because remember, yesterday was a rain delay. So this game is started at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. The game didn't end, I think, close till midnight or a little bit after 11 o'clock because we had a rain delay. It was already, I think, no, yeah, there was no score. And then after that home run, it kind of like, dude, look, this is to all the people. So these are my notes for game two, and next page is the preview for the Angels series. I did not even bother to write notes for yesterday's game. I didn't even care because one, I knew they were gonna get swept, and the fact that they lost the way they did. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like it's just that home run epitomizes this season for the Marlins. Like shame on Burt for not communicating loud enough, and Ruiz, like it's just no communication. How do you not communicate better, efficient in a moment like that? And the ball wasn't going out of the park. That was a regular an out up against the wall, up against the track. But because these two numbnuts didn't communicate, crashed into each other, and the ball just happens to go over the wall and into the stands, and it's a 2-run home run. And I think that symbolizes our entire history against the Braves, and that symbolizes our season. I mean, this, and then from there, I lost count. Like, yeah, the two
Yeah,
plays you mentioned, the throws to second, the two defensive plays, those were great, but that's it. That's it. Offense, once again, Marlins Network on Twitter, he's like, these at bats are the most pathetic at bats I've ever seen in my life. And I have to agree because we're not doing anything. These guys look like they just wanted to get this over with and go back home so they can go to the beach and see bikinis and the water and all that stuff. That's what it felt like. This team did not get off the bus for the series. They did not get off the plane except for the pitching staff. Shout out pitching staff. These guys, these position players, excuse me, but they have their heads up their asses right now, and their heads are in the clouds, and this is what we're getting. Like, it's bad when Javier Sanoa has to pitch. I mean, it was just an absolute disaster class. I think the score was 11-3. It was brutal. It was brutal. And by the time the sixth inning came on, I shut the game off. I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care. I was tired. I did not get good sleep the night before. I wanted to sit. I wanted to chill. I'm not gonna waste my time watching this crap, man. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not gonna sit and watch this garbage that the Marlins just showed us, with this series, because it is garbage. It's hot garbage. It's hot garbage. I'm sorry, but it's just reality. This team, these bats are so bad that I feel like my grandmother from the Dominican Republic, shout out Grandma Nancy. She could probably hit better than these guys. She really can. She really can. Because
uh,
it's just disgusting. It's just brutal. It's awful. It's awful. I got nothing else to say. Just brutal. Did not show up, and these guys look like they did not care. And then I'm seeing Kyle Stowers smiling at first base. You're down 6-0, and you're smiling. I don't like that at all. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, what do you expect them to do? Cry?" No, but I don't want to see you snickering and laughing like if you're in the back of a middle school classroom, you know, saying, talking inappropriate jokes with your best friend in the back of the class. Like, it's not funny. So why are you laughing? Like, it's awful. It's awful. It's awful. Awful stuff. Awful stuff.
well, I guess the last good thing about this game that I should really mention before I'll just briefly list off about the events that happened after this rain delay, which I know I was texting Justin during this saying, man, they better cancel this because I know it's not going to end well.
I wanted it canceled.
I
There was
did
no reason to
too.
play the rest of the game.
But shout out Jansen Junk. I know it says he allows the 2 run home run with the two
He didn't.
earned
No,
runs, but that honestly should just be an E7 and an E8
that's
because
an E7, E8. That should
that
not
that
go against Junk at all.
that should not at all. There's no way that should be allowed to him. But this is another good Jansen Junk start. Um, Overall, man, he was striking out guys. He got some pretty good defense out of it until that event happened. But so yeah, this was another good Junk outing. I know that they mentioned after the game that this would not affect Junk's pitching, rotation or whatever going forward. So yeah, another good outing by Junk. I'll say that. Other than that, just to kind of wrap things up here with this, yes, Javi does pitch. King, I'm not sure why John King, after a good fifth inning, gets left in for the sixth. He should have been yanked when Harris doubled. Vognick was put in a terrible situation, which, I mean, look, he just was, even with the Xavier Edwards. Again, I don't know what he was doing with doing this to Otto when that should have just ended the inning, but whatever. Javier Sanoa makes a terrible E8 that should have been a put out, but it ends up with him pitching and Jacob Marcy having to, excuse me, sorry about that. With him having to play center field for that one out, and Augustine Ramirez records his first hit since May 2nd of the second Phillies game. And yeah, 6 runs in 3 games in this series. That's all you need to know about how bad this offense was. But other than that, if you want to talk about a get right series for this team, this is honestly the best team to do it against with the Los Angeles Angels or Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, depending on your fancy. This is not a good team at all. The only good player, 2 players on this team that were surprisingly not traded, even though Trout said that he wanted to stay, which, all right, loyalty's cool and whatnot, is Demers, which I don't think they're going to face him in this series.
No,
And I know they're going to face a lot of Mike Trout, so that's that's something. But this is honestly the get right series that you need offensively as a whole. There's no excuse why you should at least be putting up 4 to 5 runs a game in this series at all before you have to take on the former Miami Marlin, Lake Walker, and his fire team in the Pittsburgh Pirates. But to get into pitching matchups here, tonight's game, last time I checked, which was about this was which was yesterday, so this could have changed. It's a TBD versus Tyler Phillips. I'm gonna hope the guy I say this dude's name right.
Is George
Ooh,
Klassen.
huh?
George Klassen is going to start today. I apologize. George, I saw it this morning. Klassen or Klassen, George Klassen for the Angels is going to start today.
Well, there you go. That takes care of that because it was TBD before that. Well, I'm just gonna say his dude's first name. His first name's Walbert. His last name, I don't know how to say it, so I'm not gonna say
Urenia.
it. versus,
Urenia.
yeah,
Urenia.
Urania. Versus Sandy Alcantara. So we're gonna see a Sandy Day on the beach on Saturday, and Sunday's game in the teal will be Rodriguez versus Ryan Gusto. So definitely, pitching wise, hey, you get Sandy Saturday should be for the most part a guaranteed win. I would say because Sandy has been really great outside of his terrible May throughout this entire season. Um, Gusto, I mean, we'll see what he does. I'm kind of curious to see how he will do after arguably one of his best performances of the year against the Atlanta Braves, despite allowing that home run. And Tyler Phillips, you know, we'll see how he's gonna respond. Hopefully, he doesn't allow his sort of government mandated 2 runs. Um, but yeah, no, this look this is a get right series for this team offensively. There's no excuses that you should struggle against the Los Angeles Angels. I mean, sure, if you struggle against Mike Trout, whatever, but other than him, there's no excuses, man. This is not a good team. Despite the Turtle Derby, which is the American League West, is an entire Turtle Derby as a whole, but this is not a good team. There's no excuses as to why that you should lose to this team in a series. Sure, you lose a game, whatever, but you need to win. You need to win this series. Take 2 out of 3 against the Angels. No excuse.
No, yeah, you say take 2 out of 3, and I'm saying you guys better sweep because, like, I mean, yeah, 2 out of 3 would be nice, but they better make up for the sweep they just got against the Braves. Like you said, get right series. You better have that plastered the whole clubhouse. I want that those 2 words on, like in the bathrooms, the mirrors in the bathrooms. On the mirrors, I want in Sharpie get right in all capital letters with 5 exclamation points at the end. Get right, and then I want the guys to get don't suck tattooed on their foreheads. There's no excuse. There's no excuse coming into the series. If the Marlins lose this series, pack it up. The season's over. Like I don't care. Oh, they're only 3 games back. They're, they're 500. They're only 3 games back. No, no, no. The Angels are a horrible ball club. They're 44-71, and they just basically purged their entire roster at the trade deadline. I wrote it down here. They traded Kirby Yates, Ryan Ryan Zephyrhahn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but yeah. Joe Adell, Brent Sutter, Jose Soriano, their number one pitcher this season, Logan O'Hop, and they also DFA'd Jorge Soler because he's having an awful season. They
Shout out
got
to the
rid of
former
their
Marlin.
yeah, former Marlin, by the way. Shout out Jorge Soler. But they just purged their entire roster. They're gonna play mostly kids starting now. You guys better win this series, especially when you have Phillips and Alcantara going. You have Phillips going tonight, Alcantara tomorrow. You have Gusto coming off that great start. He's doing now the third game of the series. Go out there and win this series. Go out there and sweep this series. There's no excuse. I wrote down a whole bunch of numbers. They're meaningless to talk about. I don't even know why I did that because the Angels, they suck at hitting. They suck at pitching. They do have some good pitching numbers, but let's be honest, most of that was because of Jose Soriano's hot start and he's gone. He's in Toronto. This team sucks. So go out there, play the way you can, play what you're capable of, and don't choke away this series. Now, there are some notable bats that we should focus on. Of course, Mike Trout. I don't got to talk about him. Everybody knows who Mike Trout is already. There's no reason for me to get into it. Although I will say Um, obviously he is aging. You can kind of see that. I mean, his basic numbers are still very productive, but they're not even in comparison to what they were when he was in his peak. So you could tell he's aging. By the way, Mike Trout, I don't know what you're doing, man, but you gotta listen. I've always rooted for the Angels. I've always rooted for Anaheim, but dude, you got to get out of there, like, cause it's clear that your number, it's clear that your owner doesn't care about you at all. So go out and leave next season. But yeah, so Mike Trout, but you also have Oswald Peraza, a little bit of a tongue twister there. Oswald Peraza, who's batting 236 this season. Not a great OPS, 649 OPS. So, but he is somebody to keep an eye on. And then the Angels have this kid. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm gonna do my best here, but it's Shawnwell. Nolan Shawnell. Could be wrong. But he's having a great year. 96 hits. Not a power hitter. Only 6 home runs, but obviously he's more of a guy that gets on base. He's batting 275 this season with a 345 on base percentage and a 387 slugging percentage. OPS at 732. So the Angels still have some decent bats, but as we just said, there's no reason why this Marlins team should not go out and win this series. You're at home, you're in your ballpark, you just came back from your graveyard. Wake up, get back to what you were doing in the Mets series, and let's take it from there. They got to win the series. They have to. If they don't, it's over.
No, absolutely. Well, we'll find out starting tonight with Tyler Phillips leading the charge. But other than that, when before we sign off here, yes, as we mentioned yesterday, next week on Thursday will be the season preview for the Miami Hurricanes. That's for one. That's going to be a great topic of discussion, especially for me, a guy that not really the biggest Hurricanes fan ever, especially being a fan of UT and my brother being a UTSA fan. So that would be an interesting conversation to really kind of introspect, especially now with Mario Cristobal's contract extension that I will mention now since I know it's going to be a talking point in that video Thursday. And next Friday, we will discuss the two series that are going to happen over this weekend and then during the weekday with the Angels and the Pirates. But other than that, yes, thank you all for watching this video today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video out with as many people as you can. And yeah,
Yep, absolutely. Hopefully the Marlins can win the series, like I said, and we'll be back here next week talking about the Miami Hurricanes for the first time on this channel, and we'll also dive into what we hope is a better episode in terms of the Marlins next Friday. But yeah, yes, we'll be back next week, and everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.
yes, take care.